Tomorrow is my birthday. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Let me glow in that spirit of adoration for a minute. By the way, if that felt funny to you, that moment, you have good reason. In fact, that's what we'll be talking about today, is narcissism. Bill over there said, "Gee, Alan, I don't know anyone more narcissistic than you. This should be an interesting speech." So I'm glad he's come to hear that. I got a birthday card already from my brother-in-law that said, "Alan, when I think of you, I think of the great California redwoods, their majesty, their nobility, their beauty. Thank you for planting them." Quite frankly, I do need a slap on the side of the head from time to time to help me with my narcissism, Bill. And so, I appreciate those things. The funniest thing that I loved came from my wife. I was feeling a little, full of myself, I guess, one day. And I said to her, "Honey, if I couldn't manage to keep you in the lifestyle that you're accustomed, with all the wealth that is required to make that happen, would you still love me?" And my wife said, "Honey, of course I'd love you. I'd miss you, but..." So again, people do try to keep my head the way it should be. A nice balance between a little bit of self-esteem and a whole lot of spirit. So I'm going to play a very short tune, and I want you to see if you can guess what the song is. I don't want you to call it out, because I will reveal that at the end of the presentation. Here's the tune. Our topic today is about tyranny of ego and the promise of spirit. I began to notice something strange, maybe 10 years ago, maybe a little bit longer. I was teaching at Washington State University, and teaching about 3 courses in communications. And one of the first things I noticed is students would come to class in pajama bottoms and slippers. And I thought, okay, that's an interesting observation. I asked one of my students, "What's that about?" And she said, "Well, I just like to be comfortable." Okay. First observation. Second observation. At the end of a quarter, I had 50 public speaking students. I invited them all at the end of the term to a Christmas party at my home. So my wife Nita and I prepared our home, prepared the meal, prepared the decorations, the music, the agenda, and then we waited. And waited. And waited. Not a single person came, not a single RSVP, nothing. What is happening, I wondered. At the end of an interpersonal communication course, as a way of saying farewell, I gave all of my students a copy of one of my books that is about interpersonal communications. Not a single thank you. I thought, isn't that curious? I was teaching a public speaking course, and one of the students got up to give a presentation, which was fine, but needed to be fine-tuned. I asked her to go back up to the podium and to try doing this. And I explained what I would like her to do. But she never started. Because someone in the class raised their hand and said, "You can't do that. That's too demanding." Okay. A wedding gift for the taking. About that time, I had two close friends, young people, get married, two different couples. And so my wife and I decided to give them both $200. I thought a sizable gift. Not bad. Never a thank you. How strange. So here's my thesis. That the equilibrium between ego and spirit is dangerously out of balance in our society. And that the trend is escalating, and we need to actively promote a more healthy balance. So I need to define some terms here. What do I mean by ego and what do I mean by spirit? Well, I'm defining ego as these ideas that I'm special, I'm right, I'm entitled, I'm important, and you know what? I can do just about anything I want. I'm important. And I'm special. Defining spirit as a whole bunch of things. Civility, community, humility, kindness and love, interpersonal intimacy, a service orientation. So what's the problem with an ego that is overly inflated? I came across this cartoon and I thought it said it all. "Frank, did you learn anything about yourself in your first therapy session with your therapist?" "Well, some negatives and some positives." "Well, what were the negatives?" "Well, it seems that I'm self-centered, controlling, defensive, greedy, and moody." "Yikes! But what about the positives?" "Well, the biggest positive is that I feel really good about who I am." I'm afraid that is not very far from the truth these days. So where's this coming from? All of this ego-centeredness. Well, first off, there's a lot that is being influenced by our pop culture. For example, our advertising. I don't know if you've noticed the way that advertising is directed now to the individual ego. Burger King, have it your way. Not our way, have it your way. U.S. Army, I can't believe this slogan, an army of one. What? I mean, I just don't understand that. An army of one? Oh, here's one of my favorites in the world of advertising. Will the neighbors think that I'm a cheap tramp if I don't buy one of those Tempur-Pedic mattresses? But the subtext is this. It doesn't matter what the neighbors think. I do whatever I want. Or how about the movies? This is from, anyone know what movie this is by chance? Well, you're not hip. It's from X-Men. And this is Pyro here. And Magneto and Pyro are having a little discussion. Magneto says, "What is your name?" "John." "What is your real name?" "Pyro." "That's quite a talent you have." "Well, I can only manipulate fire. I can't create it." "You are a god among insects. Never let anyone tell you different." You know, I mean, really, can you see how this sort of stuff eventually gets into the minds of our young folks? Or how about just celebrities in general? This is what I have to say. I love these. Britney Spears. My number one highest priority, myself. Or how about Charlie Sheen? I'm tired of pretending like I'm not special. I'm tired of pretending like I'm not bitchin'. A total freaking rock star from Mars. Or how about a celebrity from the world of athletics? LeBron James. This is what LeBron James had to say when a reporter asked him in 2010, when he was thinking about leaving Cleveland, his hometown. The reporter asked, when you made your decision, did you talk to the coach prior to that? And his answer was, no, I just wanted to make sure I was making the right decision for no one else but myself. Now, since we're talking about athletes, how many of you saw the Seahawks game, the last game of their season this year? Yeah? Yeah? I don't know if you remember this. This is right at the end of the third quarter. Ataiba Reuben sacked the quarterback and went out into the field and blew a kiss to the world. I'm not sure what that meant. Did it mean, yes, adore me? Did it mean, aren't I beautiful? I don't know. But I'm sure it had to do with ego. Now, what was ironic about this is, you see the score, it's 13-26. And he's blowing kisses. Come on. But most ironic was this. A few seconds later, if you're watching the game, they had a presentation of an Atlanta 13 to 14-year-old flag football team. Did you see these guys? That's right. We're good. We're good. Look at this. Look at me. They're 13, 14 years old. Where do you think they get it? But you know what? You too can be a celebrity. By the way, a little over 10 years ago, there was only 4 reality shows on TV. Now, there are 400. Everyone can be a star. And even you. All you need is celebrity for a day. If you buy celebrity for a day, you can have 6 personal paparazzi, 1 bodyguard, 1 publicist, 1 limousine, 2 hours non-stop action, and your own magazine cover, all for the low price of $3,000 plus tax. Let's do it! Okay, how about the impact of technology? Maybe that has an impact on all of this. Well, texting is on the up, by the way. Here's a study from 2013. Male teens are texting about 2,900 times per month. That's 1 text every 10 minutes. Every 10 minutes of waking hours. That's 16 hours a day. We're figuring they're going to sleep for 8 hours. Although, you know, they may have an earbud in during that time, just in case someone is texting. Females are over 4,600 texts per month. That's 1 text per 6 minutes. That's doing this. It's nothing about conversation. It's nothing about intimacy. I know. I telephone them, they all have cell phones, and none of them answer. Okay, what is this doing to our brain? I mean, all this time spent texting. This comes from Nicholas Carr, the author of The Shallows. He was a Pulitzer Prize finalist in 2010. The internet turns us into lab rats, constantly pressing levers to get tiny pebbles of social and intellectual nourishment. In other words, we're becoming addicted. And we're raising a generation of young folks that are becoming addicted. It's like a hit of heroin. By the way, let me say this before I finish. It's really not their fault. It's our fault. In the 60s and 70s, books like Your Erroneous Zone came out. That sold 30 million copies, and it was the same message again and again. Do whatever you want. Forget what other people think. Okay. You know, again, self-esteem is important. A certain amount of that is important, but not when it becomes out of balance. The brain is neuroplastic. What that means is our brain is capable of adapting to the things that we practice. So if we practice things that are shallow, flitting from one thing to the next every few seconds, our brain, our synapses, the neurology, the chemistry of our brains adapt to that pattern. And as a result, we become shallow thinkers. Why is that a problem? Because empathy and moral decision making take the brain longer to process. This is a conclusion that came out of USC Brain and Creativity Institute. It takes longer for the brain to process being empathic. But if you understand, if we're spending every 6 minutes we're texting, we're doing this, or we're fleeting on the internet from this thing. Oh yeah, but there's this thing over. Oh, there's this link here. Maybe I should. Nothing going deep. Not allowing our mind to go deep, you're not going to get to a place of empathy because it just takes longer. Texting frequency, this is interesting. This is from University of Winnipeg. 3,000 subjects in this test. And what they discovered that texting frequency was negatively correlated with self-reflection and morality. And the P on this was 0.001. That means that there was 1 chance in 1,000 of that happening by chance. And by the way, this is happening globally. This is something I translated from French, their magazine La Vie. The consequences of advances in technologies have created an erosion of patience. We become less open to the slower rhythm required for the deepening of relationships. With the slightest disruption or inconvenience, we have the sensation of being wrong about the other, and we determine that it is easier to simply drop the person. Have any of you felt that? That you've been dropped because you were too demanding, that you actually wanted a relationship? The fact is that there's a 48% drop in empathy and a 65% rise in narcissism based on self-report instruments. How about this? 1950, 12% of respondents said that they were an important person. In 1980, 80%. I don't even know what it is today, but I'm sure it's more than 80%. Here are the goals of 18 and 25-year-olds. This comes from the Pew Center of Research. Here it is. Number 5 choice, 10% become more spiritual. Number 3, help people in need. 39%. That's noble. Number 2, any guess on what number 2 might be? Their goals? Say again? Be famous. You know, that is number 2. Be famous. 51%. Survey says. And how about for number 1? Any guess? That's right. There it is. Money. 81%. This comes from Gene Twig, who's writing an awful lot about this topic. The book is called Generation Me. Really interesting if you're interested in this kind of research. True self-confidence comes from honing your talents, not from being told you're just great because you exist. Okay, here are 3 ingredients of spirit. There are more ingredients than this, but these are 3 that I think are important. Stop saying you and others are special, important, and entitled. You could say it in this way. Remember, nobody is better than you, but you're no better than nobody. Does this quote sound familiar to anyone? Anyone happen to know where this comes from? Comes from Catherine Biden, who used to say it to her son, Joe Biden. Okay, that's ingredient number 1. Ingredient number 2 is seek rich interpersonal relationships. So what does a rich interpersonal relationship look like? Well, first, personally, you're real. You're transparent. I allow you to see the person that I am, even with my flaws. I have very few, Bill, but there are a couple. Listen to understand, not judge. Listening to understand. You know how most people listen? What is your name? I'm looking here. Fred. Fred, tell me something about yourself. Anything.
I'm just thrilled to be here.
You're thrilled to be here. You know, that's funny because I'm thrilled to be here more than anything in life. That's what I wanted to do, is to be here at this moment. I'm thrilled. Let's talk a little bit more about me. That's what listening is traditionally. We're not talking about that kind of listening. Avoid attempts to heal or convert. You know, you're not quite right, Don. I need to fix you a little bit. Let me see if I can mold you in my image. Discard the need to be right. Have you ever done this? You go into a department store, you open the door and someone's behind you, so you let them go through. But they don't say thank you. So you say, "You're welcome." That's about needing to be right. It's not about spirit. If you have a choice between being right or being kind, choose kind. That's spirit. Hang in through the doubt. You know, in any relationship, there are going to be times when you wonder, can this thing really work? Let's hang in through the doubt. Ingredient number 3, build community. Okay, I'm going to go through this really fast. In community, there are 4 stages. The first stage is the honeymoon. At that point, we ignore the differences. You know, they do pick their teeth after lunch and it looks a little, but I'm just going to ignore that. You know, it's like that first date when you're dressed, you know, really nice and clean, you're well shaven. Maybe you speak with a French accent. You know, there's anything very real there. And so you're just going to try to make things work. But the second stage of family is when you try to obliterate the differences. It's like a marriage certificate becomes a certificate to criticize. Third is the conversion. The most mature communities get to a conversion where they release the need to be right, and it becomes almost like an age of Aquarius where they embrace love, peace, and forgiveness. And by the way, that 4th stage is a wonderful stage of development to be at. What is so great about this 4th stage is problem solving is a piece of cake, because we know that we can be trusted and that the other person trusts us and we trust them. And we can throw out any idea. It will not be judged. Who knows? Yes? You people are so smart. Did you hear that? The End. The End by the Beatles. You knew it too, Shannon? It was the last song that the Beatles wrote and recorded. And here it is. And in the end, the love you take is equal to the love you make.